Your Google Ads account is failing because you're using some of the worst Google Ads bidding strategies. In this video, I'll be ranking the worst to best ad strategies to scale your business. The worst and best bid strategies to basically scale your Google Ads account. So the first one I want to start with is target impression share. So target impression share is really bad because it's basically you want to show at the very top or position 1, 2, or 3 on Google Ads. So why this is bad is essentially you're not telling Google you actually want sales or leads. You're just telling it you want to show up at a certain part of the page. So you can see in the bid strategy settings, it would say impression share, and you have the option of anywhere on the results page. So this would essentially be, it can be below at the very bottom, it can be in 3, 2, and it's almost like never 1. So this is very unhelpful. If you actually want to see results on ads, you want to show up at the very top of the page at least if you're going to be doing a bid strategy with this. And that's where this setting comes in. Top of the results page is essentially you're going to be either position 1, 2, or 3 on those Google search results page versus just being anywhere below the fold. And then absolute top of page results would be in position 1. So you want to be in position 1 a certain percentage of the time, whether for a certain keyword you want to be above your competitors or something like this. And you can put that percentage here anywhere between 1 and 100%. And this is really just almost like brand awareness. And you're honestly not gonna necessarily see the best cost per conversion here, but you just really need to show up at a certain position. So this makes it really bad for actually optimizing for sales or leads. And on top of that, you can set a cost per click bid limit or CPC limit. So this can be based off of what you see in your average cost per click, and you make it a little bit higher because you want to show up, or if you're just willing to pay to show up at the very top a certain amount of times. Once you run out of budget, you run out. But this is one of the worst bid strategies to actually get conversions and sales. Next, one of the worst ones is going to be clicks. So clicks sounds good for newer advertisers that don't really have enough conversion volume from leads, sales, or calls between 30 to 50 in a month period per campaign. So if you have a brand new campaign and it's really not getting conversions, this can sometimes be a good option, but it's not going to be better than the other bid strategies that I talk about later. So essentially you're just telling Google you have $50 per day budget. You're willing to get as many cheap clicks as possible in order to hit this budget. On top of that, you can set a CPC limit on this as well. You only want to pay $1 within this campaign to get a certain amount of clicks for the keywords you've chosen. That's going to be your strategy, and it's not going to really take into account in the auction if this person is a buyer, a window shopper, if they're like an unqualified lead type of thing. It's just going to try to spam and get you as many clicks as possible, making this one of the worst bid strategies to actually get sales and conversions. Next is going to be conversions in general, or maximizing conversions. This is one of the most common strategies for people that actually want to get a lot of leads or sales, but they may not even have a hard target, hit that threshold of getting enough conversions where they even have a recommendation, or they really just want to max out their profitability line here. So that's when people often use conversions or maximize conversions here. This is good for a lot of advertisers that really don't know their numbers, like I said. But once you kind of start to see an average cost per acquisition in your account, this is when you're going to want to graduate up from maximize conversions to something like a target cost per acquisition. And Google will recommend a target CPA once you actually have enough conversion volume in this account. And this is a good indicator, because if you check this box and it doesn't give you a recommendation, your account's really not optimized to hit a target cost per acquisition. You want to be realistic about this. So in this case, it's saying a $130 cost per acquisition goal. So this is a good point to start at. So you can start at that baseline, and then every like 2 weeks or so, depending how much conversion volume you get, you can try to make it more efficient or drop it down to see how you can optimize this better. But target impression share is really good for mostly for lead generation businesses or single product e-commerce stores that have an average order value that's very consistent, or lead volume that is all like the same services. This is a good go-to for these types of businesses, but they need to be profitable at a certain cost per acquisition. Next, one of the best bidding strategies in general is going to be conversion value, or maximize conversion value. So what you're essentially telling Google in this case is, I have a $100 a day budget. Just get me as much revenue as possible given this budget. And this is really good for e-commerce stores that essentially don't have that much conversion volume, or a ROAS target that is under 150% ROAS. ROAS, because if you set a ROAS target that's really lower than that, it's not going to really be any better than a target impression share. You might as well just keep it open to maximize conversion value rather than dropping it to 150% return. In my opinion, that I've seen when I've tested both, you actually get worse results when you drop your ROAS target below that. So this is really good in this case for maximized conversion value. Or if you're a lead generation or service company that has their offline conversions integrated into the account, which I can talk about later, but essentially it's when your CRM has been integrated with the Google Ads or customer relationship management like HubSpot, Salesforce, and you're actually putting in closed deal values into the account. This is very powerful because it's going to account leads or add to carts or smaller sales, but it's going to bid higher on bigger revenue, either purchases or values from customers that have actually converted. So this is really powerful, maximize conversion value for both these types of businesses. If you're liking the video so far, I'd like to tell you about my Google Ads Done For You service, where me and my team personally look at your Google Ads account to see the opportunities to scale, what to cut back on, and improve your results. If you'd like to reach out for a free one-on-one consultation, book that below. Next, one of the best bid strategies is target ROAS on a conversion value bid strategy setting. This is very powerful because you can tell Google that I want like a 300%, 500%, as much as 1,000%. And you're essentially saying every dollar you put in, you need to get me $3 back, or you stop spending my budget. So as a no-brainer, it's really good that if you have a certain profitability line for the products within the campaign, or if you're a store in general, this is going to be one of the best bid strategies to do once you have enough conversion volume in the account. And Google will actually recommend a ROAS target so that it can actually spend efficiently. I would try to be somewhere in that ballpark if it's your first time setting it, and gradually increase that 100% over every 10 to 14 days as your bid strategy learns, because you don't want to be changing this too frequently. You kind of want to set this and let it optimize and look at other optimization strategies, whether it's in ad creative, landing page, this sort of stuff. But you want to just give Google the actual target so it can continue to spend and essentially hit your goals. So this is one of the best bid strategies. And now I'm going to show you bid strategies that not many people know about that are more advanced portfolio bidding strategies. So essentially portfolio bidding strategies are essentially there so that you can apply this to multiple different campaigns that have the same target. So you don't have to always manually set these at each level. That's what makes it powerful. But one of the more powerful things that I've seen, because sometimes advertisers are like, oh, we're paying way too much per click once you switch over to target ROAS or maximize conversion value from maximize clicks or something like this. The power of portfolio bidding strategies is that you can set a 300% ROAS for your store. But if you're like, there's no way I'm going to be paying like $7 per click and be profitable because Google's overbidding that auction, you know for sure, you can set a bid limit on that portfolio bidding strategy, making this one of the best bid strategies for e-commerce stores or lead generation accounts that actually have offline conversions integrated that many people don't talk about in the account. So essentially you can have a target impression share here. In that case, you'd want to put something like a tROAS 300% CPC limit of $5. And you can apply this to campaigns that you know the product cost is so high you're not willing to pay a $5 CPC. This can really tell Google, once it's in that learning phase, not to overbid on cost per clicks, or if you know that it's like pushing like a branded clicks and it's just increasing your cost per click over time, which can sometimes happen in branded accounts. This is a really good way to limit Google so that you have more control even when doing bid strategies like this. Last but not least, a little bonus here is essentially within all these bid strategies, you're going to see the little option to bid for new customers only. If you go down here, you will see where you can essentially, under bidding, you can set bidding to acquire new customers only. So what this essentially does is you can either add additional value to new customers, which I don't recommend because you're basically saying if you're willing to acquire customers at $10 or per conversion, but if it's a new customer, you want to give an additional $10 and say it was a $100 order. When two people buy and they're both $100, but there's a new customer, you're willing to add an additional fake revenue of $110 in the account, making the ROAS seem a little different. This can sometimes skew the numbers, and Google's new versus returning bid strategy acquisition isn't always accurate. It really depends on when you upload your customer list data and make sure that's fresh. So Google can actually exclude past customers from your list. And if you don't keep this regularly updated where you upload your new customers in the account, but within PMax, you have the ability to bid higher or only bid for new customers. And in this case, you're going to want to upload new customer lists within this account overall, new customers from your email list settings. So for example, you go into a search campaign and you go into audiences, you can do exclusions and edit exclusions, how they interacted with your business, and use customer lists and add purchasers. So these are different ways to really make your list perform a lot better for bid strategies or any of these types of things. And these are essentially the worst and best depending on where your business is at. So certain businesses will have different goals. So you want to make sure these are aligned and you give Google enough time to actually optimize towards these. Otherwise, you're going to have a really bad time and you're not going to be profitable overall. If you'd like me to help you actually pick the right bid strategies to scale your business, book a free one-on-one consultation below.